Hi, my name is Dr. John Douillard, and today I want to talk to you about the perfect tongue. In Ayurveda, looking at the tongue is a powerful diagnostic tool. It gives you information about the quality of the skin of the entire digestive tract, most importantly, the upper digestive tract. And since in Ayurveda, most of what we treat is the digestion because that affects everything, it's very, very important to be able to look at your tongue and begin to determine whether your digestion is skewing one way or another. Now, we also have kind of just a constitutional tongue. That means that everyone's going to have a little bit of a different looking tongue. A Vata body type tongue would be a little on the thinner side, possibly a little bit on the drier side and the rougher side. A Pitta tongue would be a little bit more, instead of pink, a little bit skewed towards the reddish side. And because it's hot, it might actually dry out and it could be a little bit more towards the dry side and sort of medium size. A Kapha tongue is going to be larger and more full, and it's going to naturally be more wet. So those are the constitutional tongues. And in the article associated with this video, I go into all the details of all this. But the fun part is to be able to see what your tongue is doing in terms of your digestive health and your digestive strength, okay? So for example, well, first of all, before I do that, we should describe the perfect tongue. So we have a baseline of what the tongue should actually look like. Okay, so here we go. Based on, of course, your constitutional tongue, we want to have a tongue that is pink, not red, okay? And pink, not pale, but sort of a nice pinkish tongue. That tongue should be, that pink color should be across the entire surface of your tongue. It shouldn't be pink on one side and red on the other, or red somewhere, or pale somewhere. It should be sort of a consistent color through the entire tongue, okay? That pink should not be completely clean. It should be with a very, very thin coating of mucus. If the tongue has got lots of mucus, we're going to talk about that. It's not good. If it has no mucus and no coating at all, that's also not good. We'll talk about why. So the perfect tongue is pinkish in color, a thin white coating, very thin white coating, not a toxic coating, very thin white coating. The color is consistent throughout the entire tongue. You don't see any scallops along the side of the tongue. It's a smooth tongue. There's no crack, so it's very clean. The taste buds, those little cylindrical taste buds on there, should be seen reaching out, trying to taste food, not sanded down and super duper smooth. We call that the movie star tongue. You want to have a tongue that is a little bit porous, like your taste buds are there, and you see them across the entire surface of the tongue, not just taste buds on the tip or in the middle or the back, but across the entire tongue. So we're asking for perfection here, right? And then, of course, it can't be too wet. It can't be too dry. It has to be, like the three little bears, just right. So that's what we're looking for, is just the right amount of mucus on your tongue, because that reflects the perfect amount of mucus in the esophagus and in the stomach and in the upper small intestine. And that's how the villi work in the intestinal tract, is they have too much mucus, they get super boggy. They have too little, they get dry and irritated, and they produce reactive mucus. And the microbes, which is what this whole thing is sort of about, they love it when it's just like the three little bears. They love it when it's just right. Okay. And all that, by the way, is written in the article, so you can go through and point by point and look at your tongue in the mirror and make sure everything's going well. Okay. Now, let's say your tongue is a little bit reddish color, okay? That means you're skewing towards too much pitta. There's a thing in Ayurveda called upward moving vata. It's not just Ayurveda. People get heartburn, acid reflux, hiatal hernias. That's all upward moving heat, and that can dry out your tongue. In that heat, the tongue goes, and all the taste buds contract, so the tongue looks super smooth, and then it turns sort of reddish color. So it looks red, smooth, shiny, maybe even a little wet because it's irritated. And I call that the movie star tongue, right? Because it's red and clean and shiny and it looks really good, except for it isn't very functional. So what you don't want to have is the taste buds contracted because it's irritated or too hot. Therefore, the tongue turned red. Therefore, the tongue got either dry or reactively producing wet mucus, either too dry or too wet. Neither one of those are good. And if it's red, it means it's irritated. And if the taste buds are contracted, you have that sanded down, super shiny, smooth tongue. Even though it looks good, it isn't very functional, okay? Really important to look for that, okay? If there's scallops, teeth marks along the side of the tongue, it means that we're not absorbing our food very well. Sometimes the tongue just looks really big and swollen, and that means, and it can even hit your teeth, and therefore you have teeth marks, but that's also a sign of inflammation and around the intestinal tract, and we don't want to have that either. Also, you can have a coating on your tongue. And now, no coating, not good. A very thin white coating, that's what we want. And if you have too thick of a coating, that means ama, which means undigested food, that you're not digesting your food well. And of course, we know that when you scrape your tongue, which is a really good habit to get into, because not only does it clean the taste buds and get them to work, it actually increases your digestive enzymes. It actually gets rid of certain microbes that cause bad breath and cause a compromised immune system in your mouth. And of course, it actually stimulates your whole digestive tract in the morning. So when you scrape your tongue in the morning and drink a big glass of water, that stimulates your whole digestive tract to get you to go to the bathroom first thing in the morning. So that old-fashioned thing of scraping your tongue is a great way to just keep the tongue very, very healthy. It isn't going to fix an underlying digestive imbalance. We got to fix that internally, but it is a very, very important piece of the puzzle. So when you're looking at your tongue, if it has a thick coating on it, and sometimes we have a chronic indigestion and congestion, toxicity in the intestinal, small, large, and of course stomach, and you'll see that on your tongue. If the toxic kind of thick coating is way towards the back of your tongue, then that usually means it's sort of down lower in the lower part of the small intestine or large intestine. If it's in the middle of your tongue, it's usually small intestine based, and if it's actually all over the tongue and everywhere, we start thinking that's the stomach, where the stomach is just really toxic, and it's right up. It doesn't have to go very far for it to actually coat the entire tongue. So those are the things that you look for. You look for the color. Is it too pale? Pale means weak digestive fire. If it's sort of grayish color or not pinkish color, shifting towards pink, that's what we want. Reddish color, scarlet color means too much heat, too much acid. That heat will dry out, and you'll get either a very dry tongue, or you'll get a reactive mucus and a very, very wet tongue. Like a desert, if it gets too dry, it'll start to crack. And if you see little cracks all over the tongue, that usually indicates a lot of either too much heat, too much stress, we call it vata, or pitta. Either of those can crack the tongue. Vatas, because they're generally naturally more dry, they're more prone to the tongue cracking. If there's a big crack down the middle, we start thinking that's actually spinal tension or some real stress in the nervous system itself. And that's a real common sort of vata imbalance, is the cracks down the middle. If the tongue is sort of cracked all over, we look at that as just generic, lots and lots of stress, and that can happen either to a vata or a pitta body type. Kapha types generally don't get cracked tongues. They tend to get bigger, swollen tongues, where it becomes very full, very, very coated, and you can see that tongue is just sort of a little bit swollen and coated, and therefore toxic, and that's due to very, very boggy digestion. So there you have it, the tips to first understand what a perfect tongue looks like, and then of course to determine whether your tongue is out of balance in a vata way, a pitta way, or a kapha way. And then of course in my archives about digestion, you can read over 500 articles about how to repair, rebuild your digestion, and watch the videos as well. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. John Douillard. Hi, did you like this video? Do you like our content here at LifeSpa? You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/John Douillard right here and get this valuable content every week in your inbox.
This recording is brought to you by LifeSpa, where ancient Ayurvedic wisdom meets modern science. Get access to free health video newsletters by Dr. John at lifespa.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.